and we are here at the Cathedral College Basketball at the Cathedral Classic. My name is Stephen Bagell from the Center Hub. I'm joined by Frain from the Portal Report and Mid-Major Madness. So we just saw a doubleheader today. It was Hofstra beating Merrimack 78-58 and Penn beating LaSalle 73-71. Riley actually was fortunate enough to be here yesterday as well, where, what was it, Hofstra beat LaSalle 63-58 and Penn beat Merrimack 77-65. So Penn so far 2-0, Hofstra 2-0, the other two teams 0-2. We will see tomorrow. We won't be here, but we're seeing the two undefeateds. Penn and Hofstra play each other. Riley, let's talk about the first game, the Hofstra-Merrimack game. What stuck out to you?
Well, first off, Hofstra's size and the way they sort of dealt with that unique zone that Merrimack runs, literally, for the whole game, almost 40 minutes they're running that sort of zone look on defense. But the way Hofstra was able to attack it with their size, guys like Salle Sunday, who went off and had a big game, finishes in double digits. Biggie Patterson, I believe, had 8 rebounds on the night. Even Victory Onuetu, a Spanish native who spent some time with the national team this past offseason at the youth level, getting on the boards and had a solid day for them. And that was something Coach Speedy Claxton talked about post-game when we spoke to him was the disparage in size between Hofstra and Merrimack and how much the rebounding battle played into them. Not necessarily building out an early lead, but kind of running away with it late as Merrimack's offense really struggled. And
Hofstra, last year their biggest struggle was offensively. Speedy Claxton's team always traditionally has one of the better defenses, for a mid-major, especially in the CAA. They allowed 58 points today, 58 points yesterday. Yeah. So I agree in terms of not just the size, but just their ability to be able to, defend.
Yeah.
Also a fun caveat, we are here at the Palestra, as I said. Kaver Kennedy or Merrimack just graduated from Father Judge where they won the PCL championship last year.
Yeah.
They had one other St. Joe's guy, I believe, Merrimack. Blanking on the name, so I apologize.
Ernest Shelton, another Father Judge grad.
That's who it is? Okay, Ernest Shelton. So that's a fun little caveat. Merrimack head coach
Kennedy finishing in double digits yesterday as well.
Yes, and Joe Gallo obviously has Philly ties. There was some speculation he was potentially a candidate for the LaSalle job before they hired Nichols. So otherwise, do you have any other takeaways either from yesterday or today's game specifically that stuck out?
Yeah, just maybe the offensive struggles of LaSalle a little bit.
Okay.
I know they're not a prime three-point shooting team, and as you pointed out, that's a Hofstra team that's kind of built on its defense the past couple of years in the CAA under Speedy Claxton, and a very similar theme kind of going on this year with that roster. But just the way they limited LaSalle yesterday, obviously, like I said, the three-point shooting is not a hallmark of this LaSalle team. They finished only with 58 points, like you said, Hofstra holding both opponents to 58 over the past 2 days. So LaSalle's offense really slow to get out of the gate yesterday. Today they sort of came out with a new energy firing, but the way they sort of tailed off at the end, and I have the final box score, just shot 66 for 23 from 3. Just overall LaSalle's offensive struggles. I think it's interesting they've been able to. I look back at the start of the season, they were building some momentum early. It kind of came crashing down with a couple high major, big mid-major matchups that they've had over the past couple of weeks. But just the way they came out today, I thought a lot of energy and sort of the offense and three-point shooting didn't necessarily match. There was a lot of sort of physical slog down low. Hopefully that's not sort of indicative of more things to come from LaSalle.
So then let's talk about Penn and LaSalle very briefly, and then we are going to be joined by Jake Copestick from the Big Five podcast momentarily. Jake already started walking over, but what did you see between Penn and LaSalle? Jake, if you want to come over, feel free.
Well, what did we see between Penn and LaSalle?
Okay.
What did we see between Penn and LaSalle? It's hard not to talk about TJ Power. It goes for 29.6 rebounds, 3 assists, filling the stat sheet, played all 40 minutes, and really carried Penn through some stretches here. I think the other thing that kind of stood out to me, not just in this matchup in particular over the past 2 days, was Ethan Roberts struggling a little bit with his offensive flow. We picked him as our mid-major player of the week last week at Mid-Major Madness. I was hoping we'd get a good performance in here. But to that point, when Penn needed him today, he hits a clutch 3 to pull them back ahead on the end of it. I believe it was a 7-0 run to give Penn their first lead since the first half, late into the second. He started out the game 0 for 3 from deep. he hits a clutch three to sort of pull Penn back in the lead. So to that point, kind of when they needed him most, he was there. So Ethan Roberts struggling a little bit of offensively, but it's hard to ignore the fact that he's a leader on this team. He's a guy they're going to look to in key moments like that.
Absolutely. And I have one quick question for you, then I'm going to get
Sure.
to Jake. Is there a better 1-2 duo in the Ivy League than Ethan Roberts and
That's
TJ
funny.
Powell?
I turned to Sam Fetterman literally in the middle of the game earlier today, who fellow Mid-Major Madness reporter Sam Fetterman, and I literally said this is one of the most fun duos in the Ivy League between Power and Roberts.
Yeah.
I've sat in the press conferences with the two of them today. I know we didn't get to speak to both of them today, just TJ, but just the way they kind of bounce off each other, the energy they both bring, it's easy to see it when they're playing on the court together. I mean, when one of them's not scoring, the other one's picking the other guy up, and they both kind of bring an opposing sort of style to one another. Obviously, Roberts' big offensive game, can shoot a ton of threes. He attacks the rim well, but TJ Power more of a downhill guy who can step back and hit a three occasionally. But just sort of the way they oppose each other, I think it's going to make Penn a really strong team in the Ivy League this year. They can do a little bit of everything.
Absolutely. Penn now has won 4 in a row. LaSalle's lost 5 or 6. We're going to tap in Jake Copestick from the Big 5 Pod and Mid-Major Madness.
Thanks for having me, Steven.
Thanks for coming, Riley. Jake, how you doing?
Team action. Fantastic. Yourself? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so Riley and I know you weren't here yesterday, but we're going to talk mostly about Penn and LaSalle today. I think I tweeted this out mid-game. I said, LaSalle is a lot more, the rebound that John, that whole mantra. LaSalle is a lot more physical than Penn, but Penn is a lot more skilled. I think that was a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why that is sort of a tale of two halves. LaSalle was up by 13 with, 15 minutes left.
Yeah, as high as 15 as well.
Yeah. So, and then Penn, we saw come back, win the game. So what observations do you have as someone who follows the Big 5 as closely as you do and mid-majors as closely as you do?
Well, first I'll start with LaSalle. And yes, they did rebound that John today because me and you were at the Temple game.
Yep.
And then you can look at the Villanova game last week as well. Those Big 5 games, they did not rebound that John. They did today. More physically imposing in the first half. 50-50 balls, taps, rebounds, deflections. You saw that physicality on display that they really haven't shown maybe as much as they wanted to the last couple of games. And then for Penn, for TJ Power to shoulder the load the way that he did, to have the 29 points he did. How about start 4 for 4 in the second half and really bring them back on a day where Ethan Roberts was just 1 for 11 at one point in time in this game. And I heard you and Riley talking about the Ivy League. Is this the most exciting duo? That's a perfect segue because Jay Jones needs his praise today.
Yeah,
Jay
absolutely.
Jones we need to have a word about Jay Jones today because he comes in the second half, provides a spark. He banks in a huge three at the end. He did knock down a couple free throws. But how about more size for this team? We're in the press conference with Frain McCaffrey. He was talking about the defense. When you put him and Cam Thrower on the court at the same time, Cam Thrower, the two of them just give you more shooting than an A.J. Levine does, even though you might miss out on some speed, some athleticism, and some defense. The two of them at the top of their zone to halt LaSalle in the second half. Two guys 6'4", 6'5", and bigger. So the size at point guard, they have two little guys, A.J. Levine and Dylan Williams.
Yes.
When they can bring in Cam Thrower, when they can bring in Jay Jones, a little bit more size, you saw how that benefited them defensively.
And even Cam Thrower, had that one huge defensive stop. And then he goes down on that same possession. His defensive, I guess they call it a block. Again, you see many 6'2", 6'4", but he gets the defensive stop, goes down the court, hits the three. That's the shot I feel like sort of was shifting the momentum a little bit in terms of this game. That and obviously Power, as you said, starting to have 4 for 4. Otherwise, who do you have? We're going to be seeing Villanova and Temple play Monday, and then winner will be playing Penn in the Big 5 Classic next Saturday. Who do you think wins that Temple-Villanova game? And then who would you want to see Penn play out of those two, and who do you think is going to win?
Oh, easily Villanova. I think not only does Villanova win Monday, but here's the thing. I think a great storyline that we could be looking at Saturday, Frain McCaffrey and Kevin Willard just went at each other for a couple of years in the Big Ten the last few seasons.
Yeah.
So for them to meet each other, of all things, to go to two different Philly schools in different leagues, to see them play Saturday, I think would be very interesting because even though totally different rosters for both of them, Kevin Willard is going to know how Frain McCaffrey wants to play, and vice versa for Frain McCaffrey. However, going to Monday's game, I am going to take Villanova. A couple things to note here, though. Villanova's defense.
Okay.
Or for a Temple team their defense hasn't been great in their own right, but if Darian Ford and Aiden Tobiason can get going and Villanova's defense is going to play the way it has, the three-point defense has not been good. The switching needs to be better. Against Duquesne, allowed the Dukes to shoot over 50% from the three-point line. 11 to 23 from the three-point line for Old Dominion when they went to Finneran Pavilion the other night. if Villanova's defense will be shoddy like it has been in other games, Temple can go in there and win. I just think with the scoring prowess that Villanova has, if they can get Duke Brennan back healthy, which is going to be big as well, been rebounding the ball as well as anybody. You can tell that they missed him in that Old Dominion game, how well Caden Lewis has been playing. I think Villanova has the scoring horses to be able to win. That defense has to be shored up, but you know what? Temple's defense, especially down at Disney Road, was not great in its own right. So I'll take Villanova, and then somehow, some way, a Frain McCaffrey, Kevin Willard rematch, if you will, from an Iowa-Maryland matchup the last couple of years we'll have on Saturday at the Xfinity Mobile Arena.
Okay, and Jake has, those Villanova box scores memorized. He's a human, not a human encyclopedia, human box score, rather, which is more useful for what he wants to be doing. But again, we are here at the Palestra, the Cathedral Classic. Myself, Stephen Bagell. You can follow me on Twitter at @the_NBAGEL. That's NBAGELL. Riley Frain from Mid-Major Madness Supporter Report. Again, Jake Copestick from Mid-Major Madness and the Big Five Pod. Go listen to the Big Five Pod. Go listen to the One and Done, Bird Rights Pods. Jake, anything you want to plug?
At Big Five Pod on Twitter, at Big Five Pod on Instagram. Our Super Bowl is next Saturday. With the Big Five triple header at Xfinity Mobile Arena. But shout out to Steven as well. Helped out with his preseason magazine. He's the man, One and Done Pod, all the great stuff that this guy does. I will see you around. Not sure when. I don't even need to know. I just know I'm going to bump into you at a gym.
Saturday. Big Five Classic,
Monday.
our Super Bowl.
Hopefully Monday. Have to be there. At Big Five Pod on Twitter. But Steven's the man.
Okay. Thank you guys for watching.